I just see it's a little bit more challenging sometimes for veterinarians, coming out of school and getting into the workforce. And then, like you said, right, like I have a huge heart for them because I'm biased, but when I work with others, I just see how intelligent you guys are and stuff you guys got to deal with, especially if you're a practice owner.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the House Call Vet Cafe podcast. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison. I'm a full-time integrative concierge house call veterinarian in Los Angeles, and I help other vets to build their unique mobile practices on their terms. This podcast is for and by house call and mobile veterinarians, so it is meant to give our community a platform to connect, to share our stories, to lift each other up, and to support each other. Most of us work solo as lone wolves, right? So for me, it's been really powerful to be able to physically hear the voices of my colleagues from all over the world and to get a chance to feel that we truly are part of a community of very real other human beings who get it. While you may be alone in that little bubble of your own vehicle when you're on the road seeing patients, I welcome you to join our community by tuning into our own podcast when you're on your way to your next house call. Whether you're a super experienced house call vet with 30 years of experience, you're a brand new prospective house call vet just looking to get started, or you're house call curious, there will be something for you in this podcast. Each episode, you will hear interviews from other mobile veterinarians just like yourself who are doing unique and innovative things, vets who are sharing their stories, their struggles and challenges, and you can also look forward to hearing valuable information and perspectives from specialists and experts outside of our micro niche. And finally, if becoming a house call veterinarian is something that you've been thinking about exploring, or you're looking for some extra support getting your own mobile practice to feel more profitable and sustainable for you, check out the information in the show notes about my course and our above and beyond supportive private community for members only, plus our monthly group coaching sessions within the House Call Vet Academy. You can also check out my free public Facebook group, which is also called the House Call Vet Cafe, the same name as this podcast, and which is a warm and cozy community for mobile vets to support each other in professional and personal development, in creative entrepreneurship, and in friendship. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let's dive into the episode.
If you're looking for help with ultrasound scanning, whether that's choosing a new machine or developing your ultrasound skills, check out the First Opinion Veterinary Ultrasound website at fovu.co.uk for independent machine reviews and online and in-person teaching options. Fovu, simplifying ultrasound.
Okay, guys, I have with us a super cool guest today. I have Ruben Cruz, who is a CPA. He is the founder of Crulliance, LLC. Did I say that right? Crulliance?
Thank you for saying it right. You did.
Crulliance, which is a Profit First CPA firm dedicated to providing accounting and tax solutions. Ruben is awesomely married to a veterinarian, and they just opened a brick and mortar practice in Florida. Ruben's love for animals and his wife being a veterinarian has led him to specialize in helping veterinarians and practice owners to manage cash flow, maximize profits, and minimize taxes. Win-win-win, right? So Ruben is another kind of interdisciplinary friend that I've made through the music world who is now crossing over into collaborations with me in the vet scene as well. And so we have a mutual friend that is one of my most beloved music and flute teachers, Lee Pearson, who I hope is listening to this. And Lee introduced me to Ruben last year, and I've been super excited to share him and his awesomeness and all of his wisdom with you guys ever since then. So welcome, Ruben. I'm so excited you could be with me here today. How are you doing?
Dr. E, I'm doing phenomenal. Well, thank you for having me here. I am honored, thrilled, excited, and hi, Lee, as well. If you're watching.
Shout out to
Um,
Lee.
yeah, shout out to Lee. She's awesome. Good people. I'm doing great. It's a Monday. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So what's your favorite snack to eat when you're driving in the car?
Yes, I love food. I love that you opened this up with that question. Foodie. So technically, whatever's around, I'll eat. But if I'm sticking to my diet and being good, right, with my diet, I'm eating almonds or walnuts or something quick. If I'm not good, potato chips. I have a salt palate, so I like it all. So
Awesome. Yeah, those are like classic snacks, like good, like salty, crunchy.
yes, and once you start, you can't stop. That's the problem there, though.
Sure is. I guess once you get out of the car, you have to leave your snack behind. Well, if you're anything like me, I leave my snacks well, some of my snacks, I leave them in the car, like nuts and stuff.
I they don't last till when I get out of the car, they're gone.
Oh.
Yeah,
So you
they're
don't
gone.
get, like, the big vats of nuts?
Like the Blue Diamond bags, right? The big Blue
Okay.
Diamond. I think that's the brand. I do. Yeah, like I said, once I start, it's hard to stop. I'm a foodie. I just love food.
Awesome. So I understand that you're married to a vet, which gives you kind of an insight into our industry that most folks outside of our industry don't have. So I am so interested in your perspective and we've talked together about your really unique and interesting perspective on our industry. And also you guys just started a brick and mortar clinic together, which is really good timing because a lot of what we talk about on this podcast is starting a practice. So I know it's a brick and mortar, but there's still a lot of similarities, of course, right? So I would love to hear a little bit about your experience with that and, what see, hearing a lot of ideas that I sort of resonated with when you kinda told me about that.
Yeah, so, business is booming. It really is. When we started the practice right in the middle of the pandemic, actually the beginning of the pandemic, this was June 2020, we opened doors, but obviously we had plans and we started the process of starting the practice and it wasn't smart to at least put that on hold because of all the work that was put into it. But there was a lot of unknowns, right? All the lockdowns and whatnot. And we were kind of scared opening up the practice during the time, but it ended up being a blessing in disguise, really. People were staying home and Netflixing and binge watching Netflix and buying pets, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, and we really we did well and ended up working in our favor. But it came with the challenges. By all means, definitely came with the challenges as far as hiring people and finding people to work right during that time. That was a challenge as well, but definitely rewarding. And we're here today and thriving, growing. So it's been a blessing.
That's amazing. Has, the craziness of COVID been a stressor for you guys in the brick and mortar clinic?
Not necessarily. I mean, the way we did it, we're based out of Florida here. So it's the rules, as many, without getting too political, are a little looser here than other places, right? So we were able to do certain things that other locations weren't able to do. Of course, being cautious of everything given the situation. But I think that helped quite a bit because not every practice was doing that. And the area we started the practice was a growing area, new communities, but very family oriented. So people just getting pets, looking for that new doctor, and we fell on their map pretty nicely. It just went into place pretty nice. So that wasn't too bad.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's been such a good time to start a practice. So many people who are starting practices right now and, like you said, buying pets and watching Netflix
Right.
and looking for a new vet, and that's kind of been the case in the house call vet world as well. So very cool. I'm really glad that things have been going so well for you. Would you say that it was a pretty helpful partnership that you're a CPA and that your wife is a vet in terms of building this practice? How did that collaboration look?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, some of the challenges is letting her do her own thing and not having myself chime in on every area, right? Because there is that dynamic of husband and wife and partnership and that aspect. So knowing my role, but as far as being, the business acumen, the business experience, aside from the accounting and tax stuff, definitely was able to leverage, a lot of that starting up the business, accelerating that process for her, letting her be a doctor and focus on the big picture, right? The way she wants the clinic to look when you walk in, the experience, the customer service, building out her team, and just letting me doing what I do best. So I think definitely a good team and a good dynamic starting to practice.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I can't imagine how quickly it would accelerate a new practice to have a partnership like that. So that's so cool that you guys have each other and collaborate that way. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you guys have overcome in creating your practice?
Yeah, I would say letting go, right? As far as, when you have a team, like, this is really with any business, especially when it's your baby, right? It's your baby, you're starting a practice, you want it to
Yeah.
look the way it looks, you want it to run the way it looks. So just putting the people in place and letting them do their job, letting them do their job and figuring it out, making mistakes and being okay with allowing them making mistakes. I think that was huge, just letting go in general. The other, I would say, big thing was knowing that a bad review is eventually going to come, right? Like, and this is your baby. You don't work for a practice at this time. You work for yourself, and this is your name on the line. So, as you're familiar with it, Dr. Eve, there's certain people that are just not nice people out there. They don't get
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
that they'll voice it. They'll definitely voice it. So getting comfortable with things are going to happen, shit's going to happen, and knowing that how to handle it when it does happen without freaking out. So easier said than done.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think anyone in this industry can relate to that and fears that. A lot of people don't start their practices because they're afraid of bad reviews. They're afraid of bad people.
Yeah.
And I remember a little while ago when we spoke, you had some just like really cool opinions and interpretations of how vets are. And I think you said something like vets have these like huge hearts, but they get screwed in business and they're, they're underserved, but they're also like from a CPA perspective, they're incredible clients because we're smart, we're kind, we're good clients, all of that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
100%. I love working with vets just because of the high intelligence, right? Uh, they get it. It's easy to explain things and things get picked up fast, or faster, I should say. They ask the right questions, sometimes challenging questions. So I have to stay on my A game. Much appreciated. But it's just knowing that what they do. I mean, obviously, I have a firsthand experience being married to a vet, how big their hearts are, and the effort that it took to get to where they're at. Just the schooling alone, right? Having to study all the species, understanding the species, going through schooling, the student loan debt is its own issue, and then coming out into the market, to the labor market. It all depends on what kind of market we're looking at, right? Are practices hiring? Are they not hiring? So just having to compete with salaries and whatnot could be challenging for them when, me being a CPA, I see some other doctors or attorneys and they come out of school and they're hitting the ground running, being able to service their student loan debt and buy these big old houses with these big, nice cars and whatnot. I just see it's a little bit more challenging sometimes for veterinarians, coming out of school and getting into the workforce. And then, like you said, right, like I have a huge heart for them because I'm biased, but when I work with others, I just see how intelligent you guys are and stuff you guys got to deal with, especially if you're a practice owner.
Yeah, yeah, practice owning comes with its own pile of doo-doo,
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
but also its pile of absolutely amazingness, which is why most of us do this because it far outweighs the doo-doo.
Right. Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the role of a CPA and bookkeeping and all of that stuff? What's your role in the veterinary practice?
Well, first
Someone
of all,
like you.
yeah, most of you guys, right, don't want to do that. Don't want to touch it. Don't have the time to do it. But I like to boil it down to like the why. Why is it needed, right? Why is record keeping, bookkeeping needed? That's the starting point. Why, right? For internal purposes, we want to know the numbers, right? We want to know how well we're doing, how we're comparing against competitors within the industry, within your local markets. And then in addition to that, you know, underwriting, right? If you're growing, let's say you're expanding, the banks, the lenders are going to ask for financials and how well you're doing. And then finally, the tax side of it, right? So you could do tax planning and then you're tax ready. But most of the time, like I said, you guys don't have the time to do it. You guys don't want to do it. Sometimes you might not understand what you're looking at. So that's where we thrive and we help provide services to the market. But where we're different is we focus on profitability. And that's, you'll notice as you visit the website and learn a little bit more about us, we focus on bottom line profitability. There's a saying that goes, top line revenue is vanity and bottom line is sanity, right? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you save.
Oh, yes. I cannot agree
Yeah.
with that more. Oh my god, I love that expression. That's great.
Yeah, I heard it from an old mentor of mine and it sticks to me since to this day, but it makes complete sense, right?
That
Making X amount of dollars in revenue, but if we're not profitable, if we're not taking money home with us or reinvesting it back into the business, how are we hiring and retaining the staff we need, employee benefits, keeping people happy and growing, right? And then in addition to that, more importantly, are we rewarding ourselves for the risk we took, the time we're putting in as practice owners? So I would say that's where we step in and provide the service and helping practice owners and doctors understand their numbers and thrive.
fantastic. Oh, I love that. I'm so on board with all of that, and I think what is it? Top line vanity, bottom line sanity? That
That's it.
is where so many people get stuck. People are like, "I want $1 million house call practice," and it's like, what are you keeping from that million? What is it taking? What is the bottom line, not only financially, but like emotionally and sustainably, right? Like the
Right.
bottom line, it's a lot more than just the top line, like you said. I mean, on so many levels. So,
Mhm.
and I think, sanity and having a good bottom line, if you're doing it right, you're going to have a good bottom line financially and emotionally. And I know on that subject, so you're a Profit First trained or certified professional, and I'm a huge fan of Profit First. I huge fan of all of those books. Pumpkin Plan, Michael McCallowitz, is that how you say his name? You probably
Mike McNelowicz, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm a huge fan of those books. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into that world and what it's all about for our listeners who may not know or haven't read any of those books?
100%, because a lot of listeners, hopefully not a lot after hearing this, but a few years back, a client of mine, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, a client of mine came up to me and was like, "Hey, Ruben, read this book. I want to implement it in my business. You got to check it out." And it was like in the middle of tax season. I'm like, I don't have time to read books, right? We're lucky we're doing this podcast because beginning of February, ending of January.
It's true. It's true.
Have fun. But it's like, I don't have time. This is like close to the deadline. Hey, I want to read this book. I want to implement it in my business. I said, okay, yeah. The book went home with me and collected dust. Months later, another client comes to me and says, "Hey, have you heard about this book, Profit First?" I'm like, yeah. And I felt a little embarrassed because I didn't know much about it. And they started going into detail of what Profit First was. So by that time, I told myself, all right, I'm going to read this book. Read the book in like 2 days. Right. It's not a long book,
Right.
very easy to read, but a lot of punch to that book. And I fell in love with it, read it
Okay.
and fell in love with it. Like I said, became certified in Profit First. I figured out what it took to be certified and bought into the methodology. It's a cash flow management system, right? So it's a way to manage your cash flow and know how you're paying yourself first, right? The most important employee of your business is you, the owner, not nobody else, you. And just taking that methodology, saving, putting money aside for taxes is a peace of mind with your cash flow. And Mike McCallowicz has done a really very, very great job writing other books. As you mentioned, The Pumpkin Plan, Clockwork's another great one. His most recent, it's a marketing book, Get Different. Actually just started that one, listen to the Audible book, but that's how I got started. And like you, I am a huge fan and it's really made a difference for my business internally and changing the lives of other practice owners and businesses as well.
Super cool. Thank you for explaining all of
Yeah.
that. That's one of my top recommendations for people who are getting started. Read the book. Just start internalizing some of those principles, you know?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, would you be able to share your top 3 tips for bookkeeping, accounting for a small business owners, like the listeners to this podcast?
Sure. So this is for business owners or somebody looking to get started as a business owner or what?
Yeah, either someone who's looking to get started or someone who's in it and maybe who drowning in it. So many people, I would say 50% or more of the people that I speak to don't know what the hell they're doing with bookkeeping. And I can't say that I was any different before I figured it out.
Mhm. I mean, it truly, it's not only, doctors or it's literally the small business owner. There was a statistic that was done by a small business administration that within the first 3 to 5 years, I believe it was like 60 something percent, close to 70% of businesses don't make it. And I think it's just because of not being aware of all these moving parts of the business. But if I were to provide some tips, I would say if you're going to get started, work with a team, a very strategic team, a good accountant, a good attorney. The attorney is going to protect you on the liability side. The CPA is going to help you out with taxes, putting together a business, keeping taxes in mind. So you'd save more money, put it in your pocket and reinvest back into the business. The other thing is the four main pillars of a business. And I did not make this up. I actually kind of evolved it, but it's marketing, sales, fulfillment, and then cash flow management and accounting. Okay. Understanding those four and not sacrificing any of those is very important, right? You have to market your product, your product or service out there to the market. When you do that, you're going to get sales, right? People in the door, new clients, new patients. And then you have to figure out how to fulfill really good customer service, fulfill that product or service, do a really good job at it. And then the cash flow, right? Collecting cash timely, reinvesting it back into the business, putting money aside for taxes, but most importantly, paying yourself first and keeping good books. So I would say that. And then last but not least, going back to what we said earlier, and you loved it, right? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you save. Top line revenue is
Vanity.
And bottom line is,
Sanity.
there you go.
Awesome. So is there anything else that you'd like folks to know about you or your offerings? Anything that you want people to know? How can people reach you?
Yeah, if you're one that needs guidance on implementing a system of permanent profitability into your business, how to put money aside for taxes, minimize those tax burdens, reach out. I mean, I understand the pain points. I understand there's not much time on your plate, but this is something that you do not want to sacrifice. This is your life. This is your practice. This is your legacy, right? So let's make it the best one there is.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll put in the show notes some of the links that you shared with me. And in summary, since we are in the House Call Vet Cafe podcast, what's your favorite beverage? Kind of tea, coffee, of that sort of nature.
Yeah. So I'm a foodie, so I like it all. I like to try a lot of things. I do love tea. I do love coffee, but recently I've been drinking something that's called mud water.
I love mud water.
Yes, I love it too. Goodness, not many people have heard of it. And it's supposedly what, like a ninth of the caffeine of coffee. And it tastes fine, but it all depends on what you put in it, creamer or whatever. But it just helps me later in the day not feel jittery, not feel anxious, relax better, have a better sleep, quality of sleep. So mud water it is for me right now.
Awesome. I love mud water. It has like, I believe off the top of my head, I think it's like a little bit of coffee, chocolate, mushrooms. Like it has a
Yes,
bunch of mushrooms in it. And everyone who listens to this podcast knows I'm a mushroom fan. That's so cool that you know about mud water. I am very interestingly, the last time we spoke, I was in one of my favorite cafes called Cafe Gratitude, plant-based cafe. And after that conversation is when I bought my first jar of mud water. So,
that.
so
I think
weird.
you could buy it in store. I found it was an ad online. Maybe I randomly Googled alternatives to coffee because of caffeine and feeling anxious and jittery. And right with whatever they do behind the scenes, it came up and popped up, and I'm a fan. They actually have another product. I don't know if you've seen it. The name of it is Rest, which is your nighttime ritual, right? So mud water is the morning ritual, and then there's a product called Rest for the nighttime ritual, and it helps you relax, go to sleep. Check it out.
That's kick-ass.
I'm not endorsing it.
What's that?
I'm not endorsing this. Is not a
Okay.
promotion mud water, but it's just a good product.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I'm all about sharing cool products and things like that. And how did I not know about Rest? I'm going to check that out immediately. So
So, yep.
I think all of us vets can relate to not wanting any more anxiety or jitteriness and needing to rest at night. So thank you for that. That's an awesome tip. Thanks so much. So thanks so much, Ruben, for being with us. I really appreciate all of your wisdom and your time and can't wait to connect soon.
Dr. Eve, I appreciate you. You're doing some great things. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the House Call Vet Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never have to miss an episode. This podcast is made specifically for you, so don't be shy if you'd like to reach out and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as the House Call Vet Academy, where I also share more valuable content. If you're interested in learning more about consulting for House Call Vets or the House Call Vet Academy online course and community, please click on the link in the show notes. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait for you to join us for our next episode of the House Call Vet Cafe.